What's up, everybody? Paul here from the Hoops Crew with our Thursday night preview episode of the Paul James Show. We are getting into round 14, a matchup against the Essendon Football Club this weekend. We're going to talk all about that game. We're going to go around the grounds and explore the other games that are being played this week. We've got a player spotlight where we're going to talk about Rhys Stanley tonight. We're, of course, going to jump into game of the show. I've got plenty to choose from after a huge week in video games. We're going to do some Q&A as well. We're going to keep things relatively short. Thank you to everyone who's shown their patience in the last week or so. And I'm seeing the comments in the chat already from the likes of Amy and Roaming. Thanks for those who kind of been bearing with me the last few days where the flu's been going through the household. My daughter's had it. I got it to a lesser degree. But it's been plaguing this household for the last week or so. So thank you all for the love that was shown over the course and patience that's been shown over the course of the last few days. Very much appreciated. But we're back. And let's get into things nice and quick. Like I said, I'm going to keep things a little bit on the short side just to preserve myself and make sure I'm good for the rest of the weekend. But we'll see how we go. All right, let's get into things, as I said, with some news. We're going to talk about a fireside meeting first between Bailey Smith and some leaders within the Geelong Football Club and, of course, Andrew Dillon of the AFL. This has been a bit of a point of conversation within the media landscape the last few days because, of course, Bailey has made those nose beers comment, and that attracted the attention of the media and plenty of members of the public with positive and negative sentiments. Some, feeling like it's just a joke. Can we just treat it as such? Others, a little more scathing. And so it was a big enough deal to get Andrew Dillon to jump in his car and drive down the highway and apparently abandon an appointment with the Prime Minister as well to go and have a chat with the club and specifically Bailey in that time. Paddy Dangerfield has been quick to point out that apparently there was no fire lit whatsoever. There's a lot of them that tried. Bailey tried, generated some smoke. No fire to be found at the end of the day from all reports, which is good for a laugh. I'm glad Paddy was able to contribute to that one. But personally, obviously this is one of those scenarios where it attracts attention, it generates some news, but I don't think there's really too much to be seen here. I think it says a lot about, I guess, Bailey's standing within leadership of the AFL. They recognise the importance of the guy and the fact that there's an optical thing that is attached to him. He's a hugely influential figure, and that they want to be kind of across his, I guess, actions, his behavior, the comments that he makes and how that influences others. But I don't think there's a huge amount to be seen here, really. So that's my quick stance on all things relating to Bailey Smith and his nose beers comment and the fact that Andrew Dillon went down the highway. Honestly, the funniest thing for me is the fact that the Prime Minister got ditched for Bailey Smith. I think that says a great deal about where we're at as a society these days. Just plain funny to me. The next thing we'll talk about is a video that I've actually got going live tomorrow about the Geelong war chest that is apparently building. And I'm going to look for your comments in the chat tonight. But we have a video going live at 9 a.m. tomorrow where I will be talking all about the Geelong war chest and where we might potentially put that money over the course of the next couple of years. There's been a few candidates that have been suggested, a few people we've been considering. Certainly I've put together videos, even if we look at the screenshot here, that Ben has pilfered a little bit from old Rhys Stanley on Twitter and made some little alterations to it. Like almost everyone on this in this screenshot outside of Dennis Pagan, Luke Jackson and Tim Kelly. Oh, and sorry, Darcy Parish. I've put together a video about in the last 6 to 12 months and why or how they might potentially become a cat. So there's lots of options there for us. Apparently Geelong is into 2 big recruits, and I'm certainly really fascinated to see who those 2 big names might end up being. I've got my own thoughts. I'd love to hear what you've got to say in the chat now, but I'm not going to overshare. Yes, it is Dennis Pagan, Brendan. Yeah, where were we? So I've got my own stance there. I'll save that. I'll hold that for the video that's going to go live at 9 a.m. Obviously, Harley Reid. I guess the two that have been specifically discussed in association with this, I guess the two that have been highlighted as perhaps being the greatest chance in the eyes of Mitch Cleary, who was the main person doing the reporting on this, was that Harley Reid and Zach Butters were kind of, I guess, the two at the top of the shopping list. I've got my own thoughts on that. Like I said, I'm going to save those thoughts. People can go and check out my video tomorrow. It is I think what I really want to encourage to anyone watching and listening tonight and considering going into this conversation about this topic, but also if you do check out the video tomorrow, and I seriously hope you do, is that there is more nuance to it than just who are these two big recruits. We have father-sons. There's an NGA Academy pick that Geelong's got in play this year. And all of these other pieces to the puzzle will influence who we pick up, potentially when we go after them, because picks and those sort of things are involved in any of those sorts of transactions more often than not, especially if we trade. So, talking about Harley Reid and Zach Butters, they're both apparently not going to be really properly on the table till the end of next year. If we were to go for any of those players this year, and I guess there's probably a bunch of other players that are still contracted beyond 2025 as well that are amongst that list we've spoken about. I think Sam Walsh fits that bill, for example. There's going to be trade involved, and you've got to have capital, and that's often involving picks. And we've got father-sons coming through. We've got NGA picks coming through. Suddenly those get compromised. So I think that has a little bit of a bearing on who the club might target as well. So stay tuned for that video tomorrow. There is the thumbnail once again, so look out for that one tomorrow. It's going to be a good time. Next up, we're going to talk about Chris Scott and Caroline Wilson going head-to-head on the agenda setters the other day. Caro pushing back a little bit on the Bailey Smith, the nose beers conversation, everything around that. And Chris Scott beautifully, absolutely beautifully. And I feel like I've heard this sentiment on Twitter from a lot of people. I've seen it in Facebook comments. I've seen it all over the internet. And it's been nice to see non-Geelong supporters also coming out to back Chris Scott in this one. The way he spoke, he was so incredibly eloquent in the way he responded to Caroline Wilson here, who was being quite aggressive. I'm not going to say that she's necessarily wrong for her opinions on Bailey Smith and his behaviours. And, there's I can understand how someone might be of the belief that Geelong has been too relaxed in their response. But the way Chris Scott responded, specifically around the fact that we as a club don't feel like we need to name and shame these players publicly, I think is really, like, he did it so well. And I love the sentiment as well. Like, it's backing your players whilst not giving them an out. Like, what he's saying here in this scenario is that he believed that Bailey didn't need to make the comments that he made and that it was perhaps inappropriate, but we're not going to put him on blast, get a press conference going and make him apologize to everyone. No, we're going to discipline him within the four walls, or we're going to have the conversation, or whatever it needs to look like. And we don't need to tell you what we've done. We're not upholden to the media. We're not upholden to us, the viewers, the listeners, the fans. I guess they are to a degree, especially to members. But when it comes to things, they're not upholden to us. They don't have to disclose that conversation if they don't want to. And I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Jackie, you're right. Like, she questioned his values. I really don't approve of. I'm more on board. Like, what I can appreciate is the fact that there would be concerns from some about the way the club has handled it. And in that respect, I understand where people are coming from. The way she spoke, as Jackie, you say, as Shadu says, she was way out of line in the way she spoke. It was really disrespectful to Chris, and Bailey, and a whole bunch of people at the club, treating them like children. Look, I know she's probably seen a lot from a lot of clubs over the years, in terms of the way clubs have kind of handled different situations. And some of them have admittedly handled it really, really poorly. And so you probably walk in with this assumption about how Geelong or any club in the AFL, they probably all get thrown in the same basket of how they're going to respond to a scenario. And Geelong's just not behaving that way. And I love that about our club. And that probably caught her off guard a little bit when Chris pushed back. And I absolutely loved it. She was out of line the way she spoke, but Chris was absolutely phenomenal in his response. And I just looked at him and go, that's my coach. Like I was so proud to be a Geelong supporter in the way he responded to that. It was a very mature, responsible response, and cop that, Cara. All right, let's continue on here. Our next and final piece of news before we get into the show properly tonight is a sad one, unfortunately. Valet Terry Callum, who has unfortunately passed away this week. For anyone unaware, to be honest, I wasn't as across Terry's accomplishments over the years, but he's a 1960 reserves premiership player. He missed the 1963 premiership due to a knee injury, which is really unfortunate, but he was also the club's vice president in 1979. And, like so many who've unfortunately passed this year, all of these individuals over many, many years, from earlier members of the club or representatives of the club to the modern day, have contributed so much to the Geelong Football Club being the wonderful club that it is these days. And so to Terry, thank you for all that you've contributed to his family, his loved ones, his friends, sending you all the best on behalf of myself and the broader Hoops crew. Now, before we get into our meat and potatoes of the show tonight, which is our preview of the Geelong and Essendon game, I want to take a quick moment to talk a little bit about our YouTube channel. Specifically, Ben has just kind of actually shouted it out in the comments only a moment ago, where he said, we need a live count of subscribers on the screen. That would be absolutely awesome. But I want to take a moment. If you're watching tonight, we are sitting at 1,986 subscribers on the Hoops Crew channel right now. If you are watching on, this is streaming to Facebook and to Twitter as well tonight. If you are watching on either of those platforms, if you're watching on YouTube and you are not a subscriber of the Hoops Crew on YouTube, please, we are driving really, really hard towards that 2,000 subscriber milestone. It was one of the goals that we as a team set this year that we wanted to hit. And we are not even at our bye week yet and are on the verge of doing it. It's a huge accomplishment, something we're very proud about. And we'd like to get there ideally tonight. So if you, Lord Flashheart says, you can't make me. Please. Brendan, it's the countdown to 2K. Please, everyone, if you've got the opportunity, this is a little call to action from me right now. If you are not a subscriber of the Hoops Crew, please consider doing so. I will refresh that count over the course of the night and would love to see it climb closer and closer to 2,000. There is no financial ask required to subscribe to the Hoops Crew. It just means that this content, whether it's our live streams, pre-recorded videos, or anything else we do, some of those engagement posts and polls that we run, that gets delivered straight to your YouTube subscriber feed. So please consider doing it. As Lord Flashheart kind of referenced there, he says, I've got my mum to subscribe. What more do you want? Hey, we've just hit, there's another one, 1,987. Thank you to whoever that wonderful person was that just subscribed. If you've got like you right now, you're sitting there at your computer, on your phone, you're watching and listening to this, and you've got husband, wife, kids, friends, whatever sitting nearby, push them aside, steal their phone for a second, jump on their YouTube app, search up the Hoops Crew, subscribe, and also put this video on as well. Ben says, sign up your pets, like get them on board. Pet memberships, they're a thing in the AFL. Why can't they be a membership? Why can't they be a thing here as well? So we're now sitting at 1,987. Please, if you are not already a subscriber, consider subscribing right now. There's just that little bit. Ben's like, sent me a message earlier today. He's like, I wonder if we can get to 2,000 tonight. That is the hope. The dream right now is to hit 2,000. It's like I said, it was one of the goals that we set as a Hoops Crew earlier this year, and we are sincerely hoping that we can reach that number tonight. If not this week, nose beers for a subscribe. I mean, I don't have anything like that. So, not me. But you do you, Bailey Smith, or anyone else. Lord Flashharder, you Bailey Smith. Tony asks, can you get his servants to subscribe? I mean, your servants must be doing all right if they're still allowed internet access. Servants usually don't get that sort of long leash, I suppose. So anyway, we'll move on from that. That's entering dark territory that I don't really want to wander into. Let's get into match preview mode, where we're going to start by talking about some of the big ins this week. Bailey Smith returns to the team as things stand. Bailey Smith returns to the team, and Shannon Neal has made the cut for the Geelong list this week. I need to bring up my show notes so I can find everything. Ted Closey at the moment is the man making way for Bailey Smith to return to the team after a pretty solid performance. Oh, Jesus. We're really leaning into nose beers. Ted Close is the one making way for Bailey Smith to return for game 115. And I'm very much looking forward to having Bailey Smith back. He's going to continue to make his charge towards a Brownlow, the Coaches Award, not like Player of the Year, maybe the Players Award, Player of the Year. All sorts of awards could be coming his way later in the year if he continues with the form that he is displaying. Let's see how he goes this week. But it'll be good to have him back, and it'll be really interesting to see if Shannon Neal plays. Of course, his ankle was pretty proppy last weekend. It doesn't seem like there's any severe damage of any sort, but I would imagine that he needs a break. Oh yes, good reference, everyone. The spelling there, Ben fixed the spelling. What did we say? Omitted last week. So it was good. Ben, congratulations. You wouldn't believe it though. He got that one right, but he can't spell Jack Bose's name. He spells Bose as in like the speaker brand, Bose, and he's been doing it for 12 months. And he made a graphic for me tonight that I'm not using. Oh, hell, we're already talking about Ben's spelling. Let's just quickly dig it out now. There's nothing we need to worry about. Hang on. 3, 2, 1. Where are we? Here he is. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Sorry, Ben. Jack Bose. But anyway, let's find my notes and move on again. So yeah, Ted Closey out, Bailey Smith back in. The interchange bench currently, as things stand, Jack Martin, Mark O'Connor, Mitch Duncan, Oisin Mullen, and Shannon Neal. Of course, keep in mind that Mitch Duncan was the emergency last week. The sub last week. So we'll see whether that remains the case again next week. Does he become the perpetual sub for the remainder of the year? It'll be a really interesting one. Shadu says, really interested to see that Ollie Henry didn't come back in. I heard that he was solid enough, but not amazing on the weekend. And so maybe he needs a little bit more time. Why is Ollie Henry on the outer? I mean, his form's not been great, to be honest. And there was actually a really interesting stat that popped up today, and I hate that it came from David King. But there was a stat today about intercept marks conceded, and Ollie is third in the AFL in that. There we go. Lord Flashheart's just highlighted. Was third worst in the competition for marks conceded, intercept marks conceded against him. It's not been a great year for Ollie so far. Now, I still firmly believe that there's reasons and factors beyond that, beyond just form, and I think one has kind of fed into the other, and now it's become a bit of a vicious cycle for him. But right now, I am of the mind that he probably needs to work a bit hard, or not work harder, but fight his way back into form and back into the starting 23. Butterfingers Shannon Neal too. He's still got a little bit of work to do on his sticky hands. That we'll get there in that respect. On the emergencies list is that man Ollie Henry, as well as Jack Bose and Jed Buse. I'm still a bit like many of you I see in the chat every week. Really, really big on Jed Buse and what he can offer. And it's really frustrating and disappointing to see him continue to be on the outs. I know our defensive unit has been really solid. They're doing really great things. But I just think that Jack Bose contributes. Jack Bowes. Jed Buse contributes so much to our defensive unit. Specifically, justice for Buse. I think he'd be great for like an Isaac Kako this week. Ben, you can't even spell, like when you're trying to spell his name wrong, you still can't even do that right either. Let's get back to it. Bose is how you spelt it. Justice for Bose. He's got no idea. He's just illiterate. Don't worry about it. Milestone. Well, we've just projected that a few times now. If he's a late in, Jack Bowes will be playing his 50th club game for the Cats. Congratulations to Jack Bowes if he manages to do that. Our injury list still contains some key names. Cam Guthrie, who apparently had some calf troubles this past weekend in his VFL match. He's on the list. Jay Kolajasny, Toby Conway. The list continues to go on, but we're not adding big names to it for long stretches of time at the moment, which is absolutely awesome. You want to have a good, healthy list going into any September campaign. And hopefully that remains the case, touch wood, for the long term. In terms of some notable absentees from any form of the list this weekend, Bose beers. Just give me beers. I got on last night, actually, thanks to Bethesda Australia, who invited me over for an Elder Scrolls Online celebration thing at a really awesome restaurant in Collingwood. I highly encourage people to go check out the Smith Street Bistro. It's nice going on a junket from time to time. Anyway, notable absentees for the Cats: Mitch Nevitt, Jai Clark, and Ollie Wiltshire. You can also toss... I can't believe Ben's ignored him here. Actually, I'm shocked that George Stevens isn't on your list there. I mean, he's absolutely dominating. Him and Jai Clark led the disposals last week, did a phenomenal job in that respect. But sorry, this is me just pointing out Ben, like looking at Ben's notes. I'm being misled here. Jed Buse. I'm a fan. George Stevens has been doing phenomenal things in the VFL as well, and he's Ben's, I guess, determined that he's not worthy this week of even being a notable absentee. But he's been in great form. Mitch Nevitt is working his way back in some really good form. Jai Clark has been playing well in the VFL right now. For the likes of Jai Clark and Mitch Nevitt specifically, it's translating that to the AFL level when their opportunities come along. And Ollie Wiltshire has continued to knock at the door. It's going to be really, really interesting. Pivotonian says, I get really nervous going to Smith Street, Collingwood. There was not a concern for me at all last night, to be perfectly honest. But I get it. It's Collingwood. Never trust the place. For the opposition, Lockie Blackiston and Archer May. Now, both of these two were two of Essendon's 4 mid-season draft recruits. Archer May being the one that's kind of, I guess, been linked a little bit to Dermot Brereton. It's his long-term partner's son, but before Dermy came on the scene. Those two are both making their debut this weekend. On the outs, Sam Durham and Ben Hobbs. The umpires, Justin Power, Hayden Meyer, Jamie Broadbent, and Jacob Mollison. Jackie says she loves Smith Street. Yeah, I think it's awesome. There's some great stuff out there. And yeah, the restaurant was absolutely amazing. Roaming's just dropped a bomb here. The Bont might be hurt. I'm also, geez, my phone is failing me here. I think Sam Darcy has potentially just kicked his first goal back for the Doggies this year, as they are currently crunching the Saints to the tune of 34 points as things stand. Shadu says, no thanks to Harley Reid. Stay tuned for my video tomorrow. Now, let's get into broader match preview mode. And this is where we'll screen share a little bit and bring up the Cats and the Bombers here. Boom. There it is. Let me resize that screen a bit, make it a bit more suitable for our layout. There we go. With 1 day, 19 hours, and 48 minutes to go ahead of a 4:15 matchup on Saturday between the Cats and the Bombers, the country game at the MCG. The Cats are currently $1.17 favourites. Unsurprising, really. The Bombers are a shitful football club right now. They are not doing much good whatsoever. And and the Cats are, pushing for top 2 at this point. I feel like the top 2 is down to 3 teams right now. The Pies, obviously, as the current top seed, but then the Cats and the Crows, who both have easy-ish, relatively easy runs. So as a result, I feel like those 2 are going to be the ones that are going to be fighting for that second spot. I did my ladder predictor the other day, and I've got the Cats pinching that second spot off the Crows due to a couple Crows losses along the way. But it's going to be a tough race for that spot. So that's where things stand right now. The game is, as I said, 4:15 on Saturday, the MCG. 13 degrees and partly cloudy is the prediction right now, as is a prediction of 60,000 people that are expected to attend. Interestingly, the Scott brothers, Chris and Brad, are going to be playing their 1,000th and 1,001st games played and coached game this weekend. That is the figure that compiles both their playing and their coaching careers. They are currently sitting on 999 right now between them, but of course they will both notch up a game at the exact same time this weekend, and that will climb to 1,001 between them. Congratulations to both, and I'm glad we've got the good one on our team. Oh, Jesus, Bond's going down in the rooms. Not good. Winded only, Pivotonian says, though. With the knee to the ribs. We'll see how that one goes. That could be a bit worse than where did we say, from being winded. So we'll see what happens in that regard. Jackie asks, am I going to the game? I need to actually, I think my wife doesn't have any photo shoots on the weekend, so I might actually try and make the trip over to the MCG. Paul goes only if he's behind the glass. That's not true at all. Do the Scott brothers read each other's minds during the game? How does it work? Well, if that's the case, Brad does a really bad job of it, because has he beaten Chris yet in the match? I don't know. All right, let's. We've just referenced the odd there. Geelong $1.17 favourites for this game. We are now second favourite for the premiership as well at $5.50. Bailey Smith is $4 for the Brownlow. Max Holmes at $150. Ben's pulling out some betting odds for me tonight. I don't usually get too much of this from him. Max Holmes is a $1.50 favourite to win the Brownlow, and $1.50, $150 favourite to win the Brownlow. And Connor O'Sullivan is currently the 4th favourite in the Rising Star at $10. I backed him in when he was about this amount, so we'll just see how that works out for me. I put $5 on it. Show a bit of faith towards our beloved Cats players. History between us and the Bombers. Geelong has won all 8 of our last matchups and 20 of our last 23 with a winning percentage of 87%. There's been 13 finals played between the teams, including the 1951 Premiership. The Cats and the Bombers have played 5 draws, and the largest winning margin between the two teams, or Geelong's, largest winning margin, was 116 points at Corio Oval in 1934. Our highest score against the Bombers was 181 points at the MCG in 1992. We've got a few players that have changed clubs over the years. For Geelong, Stuart Cramery and John Barnes came across. For the Bombers, Paul Chapman, and this is kind of obviously the fortunes of the Bombers off the back of the drug cheating scandal meant that a few of our elder statesmen or our delisted players made their way to the Bombers at the absolute tail end of their career. So we're, of course, talking about Paul Chapman, James Kelly, Matty Stokes, Brent Prismal, Sean Denham, Mitch Brown, Justin Murphy, and John Barnes have all... Well, John Barnes has gone both ways, but have exchanged hands between the Cats and the Bombers, specifically in that case, heading to the Bombers from the Cats over the years. In terms of... be honest, Chris is the good-looking one. Of course he is. Everything about our Scott is better than the other one. The lesser Scott's telepathy powers are lacking. Telepathy, I should say. It's more like, I know all his moves, but he has better players. There could be that too. In terms of the opposition, and I guess some players for us to watch and keep a bit of an eye out for, I think big 2-meter Peter is one of the big ones to watch, as is, of course, Zach Merritt, who can accumulate the ball and dispose of it really, really well. And Peter Wright specifically is a problem because of just his height. He's just so hard to match up on because he just outreaches pretty much everyone, and he's got some pretty decent forward craft. So I think those two are the biggest headaches for us. Ben has flagged Nick Martin in this. I don't rate that bloke whatsoever. I don't see him being much of a problem. I actually think someone like Isaac Kako is potentially more problematic for us with a kind of mid to talls forward line. And, someone like Jed Buse not playing when he absolutely should be. So I think he's potentially a little bit dangerous there. Ben's also highlighted some strengths and weaknesses of the Bombers. Well, they've got plenty of weaknesses, but their strengths: first in average disposals, uncontested possessions, handball game, defensive 50 clearances. It's because the ball's in their defensive 50 a lot. Their weaknesses: they're 15th in average goals. They're a rubbish football club. Ben, you've cherry picked a whole bunch of stats here that make them seem better than they are. They are a rubbish football club, and I'm skipping ahead to my prediction here, but if we beat them by anything less than 30 points, and that's me going with a conservative one there, anything less than 30 points, I'll be horrifically disappointed in the Cats this weekend. In terms of the stakes, though, for the Bombers, I mean, if they can get a big scalp, and I've said this about a lot of these lower rung teams that we've played recently, I think for a lot of those teams, you're chasing a scalp. So in my mind, if they're able to pinch a win against the Cat, that is huge for, I guess, their confidence and their build going forward. But this is a massively depleted list. I mean, ignoring the fact that I don't think they're any good, their list is also quite depleted with injuries. Some of their frontline players are out injured right now, and that does not help their situation whatsoever. So I think the Cats really have this is a game to lose for the Cats more than anything else. And I sincerely hope they don't do that. Like I said, anything less than 30 points would be a disappointment for me. Pivotonian jumps in and shouts out that the Geelong should win by 7 goals. I'm inclined to agree. So I actually had 42 points as my prediction for this game. The Cats by 42 points is my prediction in this matchup. All right. So before we move on to the other games of the round and the VFL and then our player spotlight in Rhys Stanley, we're going to take a word from our sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist.
The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
Thank you, Cyril Cook Florist, as always, for your ongoing support of the Hoops Crew and all we get up to. Now, let's continue on with the show where we will... Oh, why did the framing of that go all funny? Let's bring that back. We will look through the rest of the round here and talk all about the games ahead. So we've, of course, got the game that we've been chatting a little bit about tonight. We've got the Dogs and the Saints playing right now. The Dogs currently leading that game by 34 points still, 24 to 58. There's some interesting matchups, and there's also some distinctly uninteresting matchups this weekend. The Hawks and the Crows. Now, I still don't I know the Hawks stole a win against the Dogs last week. I still don't rate the Hawks at the moment. The stats show it. The wins and losses against top 8 teams show it. The Dogs, obviously, currently as things stands, are not a top 8 team. So they haven't really rectified that history at all by beating them last week. But the Hawks don't know how to beat top teams at the moment. And look, the fact that the game's played in Tasmania gives them an edge here against the Crows, but I'm pretty confident. I know they're not the favourites in this one, but I'm pretty confident that the Crows will travel down to Tasmania and get the job done this weekend. We've then got the Lions and the Giants, which is also a fairly hard one to predict. Neither team is in the absolute best form at the moment, and especially the Giants have been pretty wobbly for a while. The criticism has been coming for them quite a lot recently, and maybe that stings them into action. The two teams have had some really awesome matchups in the last few years, and I expect this to be another one of those. Brisbane, though, just with the home ground factor, to maybe pinch it by a goal or two. We've, of course, spoken about the Cats and the Bombers Saturday afternoon. We've got a snooze fest here in North Melbourne and Fremantle. North Melbourne have the home game in Perth. After their Bunbury efforts last week, pinching a win against the Eagles, they're now going to Optus Stadium to try and beat the Dockers, and I don't think they'll do so. I would pick the Dockers here by 20 or 30 points. Port Adelaide and Melbourne, a really interesting one there. Neither team is in the best of form. Max Gawn is probably pretty shitty still. Stephen May, having been ripped through this week by many people, including yours truly, might be looking to put some big ones in after a close loss to the Pies. I think the D's will travel over to Adelaide and get the win in this one. I think. And our final game of the round is between the Eagles and the Blues. The Blues are stinking it up. They won 1 out of 4 quarters and were lucky to win the game as a result of that. But I think they'll get the job done against the Eagles here. Charlie Curnow will do what Charlie Curnow does against the Eagles. He'll kick 7 or 8, fill his boots. Everyone will talk about the great form that he's in and how he's suddenly contending for the Coleman. And then if you subtract the goals that he kicks against these cellar dwellers like West Coast and North Melbourne, you'll come to realise his season is pretty mediocre. The buys this week, we have the Pies, the Suns, the Swans, and the Tigers, all with the week off. All right. On the VFL side, I actually don't know who the Cats VFL team plays this week, so we might have a quick look. We've got Werribee. That's 11:35 at Melbourne Avalon Airport Oval at Werribee, and I believe that the women's team also plays there this weekend as well. I need to double check the time on that, but I'm pretty sure they were both at that ground. Melbourne Avalon Airport Oval in Werribee against North Melbourne. 1st versus 12th, 2:45 on Saturday. So go see a doubleheader with our VFL and our VFLW teams over at Werribee this weekend. And then, how's that? No, Saturday. You might have to cut your losses and leave early if you want to get to the men's game at the MCG, which is unfortunate. That's a bit disappointing. They've kind of structured it that way. But all 3 of our Cats teams playing this weekend. That is that for now. So let's move over to our player spotlight this week, which is, and sorry, I didn't use your graphic. My apologies. There's the other games of the round. We'll make sure that we tick the box there for that graphic use. I'll also do a little check in on our subscriber count, which is now at 1,988. 12 more to hit the magic 2K. So please, if you're watching now and you haven't already, subscribe to the Hoops Crew on YouTube. This is a call to action. We want to get 2,000 tonight, though we need another 12 before the show is out, and I want to run a short one tonight, so maybe not, but hopefully by the end of this weekend, between post-game live, the Paul James show on Monday, the match reaction, and all the other awesome content that we produce around the Geelong and Essendon game this weekend, hopefully by that point, 2,000 subs will be hit. But if you are watching right now and you haven't subscribed to YouTube, please consider now as being an ideal time to jump on the bandwagon. All right, let's continue on here, and we will get to our player spotlight this week, which, as I've spoken about, is Rhys Stanley. And there's a lot of love for Rhys Stanley, right? I know there's been consternation and concerns and frustration directed towards Rhys Stanley over the years, but I think after 2022 and him becoming a premiership ruckman for the Cats, I think a lot of that dissipated, and I think there's just a lot of love for Rhys Stanley now, and a lot of people who've maybe been a little overly critical over the years who have dialed things back just a little bit, and they're paying him the respect that any premiership player deserves, but also that he's probably long deserved. So for some context here, Rhys was drafted by the Saints from West Adelaide with pick 47 in the 2008 AFL draft. Development year with the Saints in 2009, but did win the grand final sprint. Let's not forget that. He's a grand final sprint winner. He debuted for the Saints in round 9 2010, played 9 games in his first 2 seasons, mostly as a tall forward, before being traded to the Cats at the end of 2014. This is now his 17th season in the AFL. He's played 218 games, 160 of those for the Cats, and has kicked 112 goals. He's played in 18 finals, including the 2022 Premiership and the 2020 Grand Final loss. He's kicked 5 goals in a game, which I think I saw the Geelong social team pull that one out before the Cats and the Dogs game the other week. It was 5 goals against the Dogs in 2016. A huge effort from him. He's bench pressed 165 kilos before. Very impressive figure. And my highlight here is Ben has noted that he runs a clandestine recruiting facility from his farm outside of Geelong. If you want to come to the Geelong Football Club, you will go via Rhys Stanley's farm and be recruited on the spot. And as Shadu says, he also has beautiful hair. They're pretty good locks, to give him great credit. So we love Rhys Stanley here. Flash Movie Trivia says he's a favourite ruckman since Brad Ottens. Lots of love for Brad Ottens, for Big Pill, and also Rhys Stanley. We've had some I know there's been criticism directed his way. There's been, Geelong hasn't really had an amazing ruckman for a long time. We haven't had a frontline top-tier ruckman, sure, since Brad Ottens, but Rhys Stanley has been a very, very good ruckman, and his assets of his speed and agility have been invaluable over the years. He's gotten some contests that most ruckmen never could because he's got the wheels. And I think people really underestimate the fact that whilst he may not be your absolute top-shelf ruckman in the tap ruckwork traditional sense, he offers so much more around the ground, and that frequently gets ignored, and it's been such a shame. Flash says also, when he's on, we are a 3-goal better side. And yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think the frustration for me personally around Rhys is that sometimes the difference between a good game and a bad game for Rhys could be sometimes quite large. If he's off, he's right off. He's always struck me as a confidence player, and he needs to get a bit of momentum. And then once he's up and running, he will just keep going. And you just got to hope he doesn't get injured at that point, because that will derail that good form. But I love Rhys Stanley. I think so many of you watching right now love Rhys Stanley as well. And we all should be thanking him for his incredible efforts over the years. And if 2025 ends up being his final season as an AFL player, as some have speculated, he's going to end on a pretty good note. Again, as we say, as of this point, 218 games, an incredible accomplishment. Thank you very much, Rhys Stanley. All right, it's time to launch into some Q&A in a moment. But before we get to that, we're going to do our game of the show this week. It has been a huge week in video games. There's been a lot of trailers, a lot of information out there about a whole lot of new titles destined for PlayStation, Switch, for Xbox, for PC over the course of the next 6 months, but then also 2026. And this is one that really catches the eye. The game is called Clockwork Revolution. It comes from a team called In Exile, who've done some classic RPGs over the years, some very, very retro, like isometric top-down sort of things. This is a very... Roman says Mario Kart's obvious. Paul, just say it. No, I'm not talking about Mario Kart. We've done Mario Kart before, and I'm trying to do a different game every show. Clockwork Revolution is the game this week. I want to gush about this game. It looks absolutely phenomenal, and I'm going to show it off to you right now. So let's get into our game of the show. I just need to get my screen sharing right, and that's not the one, and we'll get into it right now.
The glittering streets of Avalon sure do shine, because they suit their filth down to us.
Yeah, you play grid! Who's for a paper?
Here's to playing in the mud. Life here ain't for the soft-hearted.
You will be paying me back until you fucking rust.
It ain't for the spineless.
To keep your filthy pickers off me!
And as sure as shite ain't for the decent.
That's a clean sweep for what?
There has been a crime! Justice itself has been affronted! I have been burgled!
Lord Griswick.
Burgled!
Yes, I got that part. Do you know anyone who might wish you ill? We can't arrest and question everyone. Let's see if we can narrow the suspects down a bit. Viewer, trust your instincts, sir. Tall, yes, sir.
Built rather slim, well, muscular. Was very quick, agile.
Go on.
With a mustache. No, larger.
I see.
Quite fashionable. That's the fiend who robbed me.
They got my good side this time. Breaking in is the easy part.
Your brandy, sir.
Getting away with it is the real trick.
These candlesticks ain't gold. Worthless and dull, just like you. Nah, I have a customer. How can I help you?
I'd rather talk to you, Errol. Sounds like I'll get a better deal.
You talk to me first, and him never. Got it?
Uncle's a bit touchy, ain't he, Errol?
Touchy? I say I'm touchy! There. Anything else you'd care to say to Errol? Brains. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it.
Round here, it's all sharp edges, empty pockets, and blood on the cobbles. Goodbye, Silas.
No!
I'll hurt you, you fucking meatsack! I'll leave you with a pissing pan of peaches!
You'd either got a gang at your back or a knife in it.
We're family here. Family takes care of its own.
Can't put a price on that, can you?
Them's in charge. They don't keep order. They keep power.
Take this thing into the crucible and melt it.
They just want us beaten, broken, and too scared to fight back.
I don't want to kill him.
That's why it pays to be clever and well-armed. Let's go and end a few arguments. Don't get cocky. They've got a weapon far worse. Time. And if they can rewrite history, they can rewrite us. But look who just found Mummy's keys. Now I can fiddle with time. Put the bullet back in the barrel. Bring the chaos to a crawl. Take a mistake and make it like it never happened. We can change the world as we know it. One choice at a time. And I can even go back and change the past to change the future. And let me tell you, the hunters don't like it when the rabbits got the gun.
Now let me alone and piss off!
And that is Clockwork Revolution, one of my most anticipated games of 2025. It's doing some really, really cool things. How much commission do I get, Ben asks. No, I just get invited to free junkets like I did last night. So I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take the free beers. I'll take the free French food like I got last night. It's a good time. And look, honestly, taking the piss aside, it's good to those sort of opportunities within the games media space. There's so many people scattered across Australia. It was really good to get a few people concentrated in one place in my own backyard here in Victoria. This past weekend, a few people flew in. Some of my PR friends and contacts there as well. They got to pop in. It was really, really cool. So we'll see what happens when it comes to Clockwork Revolution. That is a team owned and developed internally within Xbox. At In Exile is the developer. Really, really cool stuff. This team has been going for decades, doing far more, I guess, simplistic looking titles, but have the same sort of level of depth. This is one to watch. It's currently on track only for Xbox and PC, but if anyone's been paying close attention to what's been going on at Xbox at the moment, that ship is sinking. And so they are putting their games everywhere at the moment. So it's only a matter of time before it comes to PlayStation as well, if that's something you're interested in. All right, let's continue on here. We are now into our Q&A section of the show. So have at it, people. We've got a whole range of topics that we can be discussing. What I do want to kick off with, though, is a topic that I got looped into on Twitter this week by Pivotonian. I believe you're still here in the chat tonight. It's been a little while since I've seen your name pop up in the chat there, but Pivotonian has been kicking around a little bit in the chat, watching from Twitter tonight. And he kicked off a really awesome conversation this week about like top 5, could have been or nearly players at the Geelong Football Club. And for me, there was 5 players that immediately sprung to mind. A lot of it overlaps with some of the names that I've seen discussed. There was 1 or 2 names that were frequently referenced when I looked at the comments after I built my list. But there's a couple others that didn't quite fit that bill. And we'll go through those 5 now. So my personal 5 are all fairly modern. I guess I don't have the greatest level of content, like in the 90s, 80s, 90s. Like I was born in 89, so I really didn't have the greatest level of expertise on what was going on through the 80s in terms of what we could see from players. The 90s, I was learning the game a lot, but even by 99, I was 10 years old, so I wasn't deeply immersed on that level. Ben, if you're not careful, this prick, I'm going to lodge up your asshole. His legs are very opposable, so we might just split him on the way in. Rip you a new one. Anyway, and also actually to Roaming's question, what does Paul do when Game of the Week's playing? Often I'll just watch along. In this particular case, I was thinking about just ducking out to go get a drink, but I was, because it was a good 5.5 minute long trailer, but I was a little bit too indecisive, and then Sick Paul equals Grumpy Paul. I was a little bit too indecisive, at which point it was too late for me to run out and go get a drink. So my 5 players that I've got on the list, and again, they're all far more recent because of, I guess, what I was kind of exposed to, or when I really started to learn the ins and outs of the game. Dan Menzel is one of the most obvious ones on the list. There was so much potential in those ACLs, derailed his career. Matthew Egan is another one with the plantar fascia that completely ruined his career. He was an All-Australian for the first time in 2007. Plantar fascia hit in the final game of the home and away. He missed that finals campaign, missed being a premiership player, and didn't play again, which is really just a horrible scenario. Who knows what he could have become? But also, I guess it's a fascinating what if around, if he continued playing, would Harry Taylor have come to the club? What would that, if he did, what would that have meant for Harry Taylor? Would he have been more of a forward? Would Matthew Scarlett, would they have changed things for Matthew Scarlett in terms of when he retired? Would we have won more or less premierships? Like it's a really fascinating one. And I guess I think I've spoken about this potentially on the show in the past, but I want to get these what if conversations going on. I would love to have some live streams in the future where the show is just what if and a subject matter. And let's say, what if Matthew Egan never broke his foot? What if his career wasn't derailed at that point? And then we can just talk, and I'll try and get people in, pull your comments into it as well. It'd be a really fascinating one. I think it'll be a really fun idea to kind of explore. But Matthew Egan is the second one for me. Nathan Ablett, there's not a lot that needs to be said there. But Nathan Ablett, bucket loads of potential, followed his brother to the Gold Coast. We lost him, missed out on a lot of opportunities there. And he's never had the heart for it like his dad or like his brother either. So I feel like there was a lot of opportunity missed there. And then we had the conversation about ruckman before. We were talking obviously about Rhys Stanley. We were talking about Brad Ottens. Well, here's two other names that have come through, potential ruck, or in the case of one of them, also a forward capacity over the years that never quite worked out. Nathan Vardy never quite worked out with the Cats. He, of course, went to the Eagles and was a premiership player in 2018. Sucked in, Pies fans. Dom Sheed, premiership player for the Eagles there. Of course, with Nick Nat going down, he stepped up and did a great job and was part of that premiership winning team. Shane Mumford is the other, who obviously did wonderful things for the Swans and the Giants, but geez, it would have been good if we held on to him. Old sausages. Would have been enormous for us, I think, Shane Mumford. So those for me are my five. So Dan Menzel, Matthew Egan, Nathan Ablett, Nathan Vardy, and Shane Mumford are the five for me. Chat, I would love to hear the five players that you think fit the bill with this particular conversation. So the five players who we just never quite saw the best of for whatever reason. We missed out. They were untapped potential, whatever. Ben says, what if there was justice for Mitch Hardy? Moving on. Crow's Girl, so Luke's mum has popped into the chat. Great to hear from you. Hoping all is well on your part. I'm doing well as well. And I did see you pop into Postgame Live with Lucas recently. That was awesome as well. Jackie says Paul Lynch, Dan Menzel, James Riley, Matty Egan, and that'd be Brett Gergich. Gergich is a family running joke. I said he would win a Brownlow. Big call. Did you see Hawk's story about Nathan Ablett eating grapes earlier? Yeah, I think I saw something earlier today, or just in recent, like in the last week or so. I saw Hawk. Video of Hawk talking about Nathan Ablett, how he was just down in the rooms during the game chomping on grapes, and someone had to bring him back up to the bench and get him back out there for the game. It was awesome. Loved it. And the soup, I think was part of it as well. Is there a YouTube poll going? See, I don't see the YouTube poll when I am in StreamYard. So thank you, Roaming, for flagging the YouTube poll. I'll take a bit of a look at that now. Let's see what we have here. There it is. Boom. What poll? I can't see. Oh, Ben's been talking about a new feature, and I need to check it out. This is one that I'm having to work out on the fly here because I haven't paid enough attention to him. Didn't get enough attention. Holy shit. Oh, no, that's just the live chat. Where do I bring it up? It says there's Q&A questions, but then I can't view those, or I don't know how to view those. Ben, if you're watching, tell me how I need to access these, because it's not the normal sort of. He's been experimenting with things in the last few days, but then I've been flat out and ill, and so I've not really taken on board many of the messages that he's sent me. Ben, text me now. Tell me what I need to do to access them. You sent me a link before. What did you send me the link for? Q&A is turned on the live chat. You can toggle between live chat and the Q&A. Here is the live chat URL. Let me have a look. I'm looking on my phone. Top chat. Live chat. Nah, that's the same thing. Live chat. Questions. Answer questions here. That's not appearing. I have no doubt there are. So in the meantime, float some other questions past me, just using the chat as per normal, while I work out what I need to actually do to. Yeah, he's been messing around with things on the side, and I'm sure it all works well, but I don't know what I'm looking for, and I've been ignoring his messages. But we'll continue on in the meantime. So we had another prompt that Ben had set up. Let me get the chat here visible, just so I'm keeping a bit of an eye on it at the same time. There we go. Paul will be like when Ben gives instructions. Yeah, I get it. I am super tech. Where are we? Rome is. I'm IT trained. It's just that it's one of those, like, if you know, you know. If you don't things. And I'd need to sit down. Like, I just haven't paid attention, honestly. It's been a big 7 days. 1,989 YouTube subscribers. Thank you to whoever it is that has just subscribed to the Hoops Crew in the last 10 minutes or so. Very much appreciate it. We'll continue to make this push for 2,000. I know it is, well, we're looking for another 11 before the show ends, but it would be awesome to hit that number tonight. If you've got friends, you've got family, steal their phones, steal their computers, subscribe to the Hoops Crew on their account. They don't need to know why. They don't need to know how. They'll end up watching our stuff at some point and fall in love with it. So just subscribe for them now. They don't even have to be a Geelong supporter. Just subscribe. Worth it. We are on 1,989 subscribers right now, though. So thank you to each and every one of you for your contributions to the Hoops Crew. The other Q&A point that Ben has provided me tonight is, when will the AFL approve a night grand final? Of course, the news came out today that we are again getting a 2:30 AFL grand final this year, another daytime game. In your mind, and I'm not asking necessarily for your opinion initially, I feel like most people are of the mind that this is an inevitability one day that we'll get the night grand final, whether you like that idea or not. And I'll certainly look to get people's opinions on the day and night grand final. But initially, can I ask people to let me know in the chat what you think specifically, when will the night grand final become a thing? Of course, we got some trial runs of it through the pandemic years, but this, I'm talking about the real deal, the MCG. When do we get a night or even twilight grand final? When does that change? Curious to hear your thoughts. So chat, have at it. Please don't use whatever Q&A thing Ben has set up, because I can't see it or don't know where to find it at the moment. We've got that function, but that's not the one. Yeah, I don't know where he's got it set up. So it could also be a case it's not working like he thinks it is. Roaming has just got his sister subscribed. So we just hit 1,990. We have. Thank you to Roaming your sister. 1,990 subscribers. 10 to go. Shadu says, night grand final at the Gabba was a vibe. I reckon won't be long way away because it adds to halftime shows and theatrics, etc. 100% with you. I'm kind of pro Twilight because it kind of gives you the best of both worlds to a degree. You can have the halftime shows really lighting it up. Sorry, I'm getting messages from work. You can you can have the halftime show really light it up with kind of the dark backdrop, and but then you can still kind of have elements of the daytime football. So for me, I think Twilight is the sweet spot, but I also don't think it's going to be too long before we have that. I reckon it's certainly within the next 10 years, it's going to happen, I think. Jackie says they don't seem overly excited to do it. Otherwise, I think they would have done it already. Maybe in the next 5 years. Yeah, 5 to 10 for me. So I think it's only a matter of time. I think most of us are probably of the mind, regardless of our opinions on it, that it's probably just a matter of time. Personally, I'd like to see it sooner rather than later. I am a traditionalist in a lot of ways, but I don't think we need to be too stuck in our ways around this particular topic. And Amy is of the same mind. Twilight. Not the movie. Or the book. Or whatever. If that's your thing, fine. Go watch Twilight instead of watch the grand final. As I've referenced already, this new Q&A thing that Ben has tried to set up, I seemingly don't have access to, and I don't have the time to go and read. Not that he's sent me much to. He's not giving me much to work with at all. Actually, he's just looking at his texts. Jackie says, I personally don't care what they do on this one. I just want to be there. Pretty damn good point. Gary says, oh, sorry. Where did Gary's comment go? There. What time would we get home after a night grand final? Pretty late. But that's where I think, Twilight's probably the sweet spot. If it was a night grand final and our Cats were in it and they won, I don't know about you, but I'm probably not getting out of the MCG until midnight, let alone then out of Melbourne or whatever it happens to be. So it would be an extremely long night, probably not getting home till the wee hours of the morning. I'll push it till 6 a.m. Maybe I'll just go without sleeping all night. We'll see how that all fares. But yeah, for me, I think Twilight is that sweet spot. And I hope that it's something the AFL pursues in the near future. It means it's not too ridiculously late, it's still family friendly. But you get the perks of the light shows and the bands all with the backdrop of darkness there. And I think that's awesome. What else have we got here? I clicked through a million different comments, but didn't get a chance to read it properly. Jackie says, personally, I don't care what they do on this one. I just want to be there. Yeah, I think we said that. Sorry. And win it. Shadu also adds. Flash says all the other finals are at night, so why not make the granny special? I mean, there's merit to that. There are still some day finals as well, like Saturday day. For in those weeks where you've still got 4 finals, is still a thing. I still remember our prelim final against the Eagles years ago was during the day as well. And that was obviously in that case to cater to a West Australian team who would need to go back and then return later in the week. But like they're open to daytime ones at any point, but nighttime works just as well. I don't know. I'm kind of pro. I'm pro Twilight at this point. Glenn asks, if Chris Scott took on the Tasmanian job, who would you want to be our next coach? Nigel Lappin. And I don't even know if he's necessarily got the chops for it yet, but the way he connects with players, the way he relates, and he's obviously proven himself through a range of different roles at the club. He's so knowledgeable, he's so skillful, and he's so connected to his players. I would love to see Nigel Lappin as the Geelong AFL men's coach in the event that Chris Scott was to depart. Lucas has dropped a bomb. I looked during the game of the show. I looked at the Cricket Live app and saw that. I also see that Lucas is lying to us with the typo here. I saw that we were 4 for. I got really excited when he said 9 for 95. The South Africans are 5 for 95, chasing Australia's 212 first innings total. Temba Bavuma has just gone out for 36. David Beddington and Kyle Verreynne are in right now, neither scoring at any great clip. The Aussies have absolutely got control of them right now. Paddy Cummins with his second wicket. That is awesome to see, and I will be spending a lot of time watching the cricket tonight, I think. To Amy, how many would turn up? That's the key. AFL's all about money and crowd. I am of the mind, I don't think it matters when. The AFL grand final will be maxed out, because the reality of it is, and I don't like this reality, but the reality of the grand final is that 70% of it's corporate. They've already got their seats there. And then you've got the MCC, of which, of course, I'm one of those. And there's 100,000 members for about 20,000 seats. So those just evaporate in no time as well. And then you've got whatever's left for the actual, for the fans of the two clubs, the members of the two clubs. It's ridiculous what they've got going, but it means that you're never going to have a scenario where the grand final doesn't sell out, regardless whether it's daytime, twilight. Sorry, Jackie, I was getting a bit heavy-handed with the 70%. Sorry, I was exaggerating a little bit there, but there's a lot that's allocated to kind of non-club members, I would say. Maybe MCC and then corporate suites and all those but yeah, sorry. So it's not 70%. I was being heavy-handed, exaggerating a bit there, but yeah, that's, it's too much though. It is still too much. To the coaching question, Flash says, I think Stephen King would be a candidate, but Scotty has said he's not going to Tassie, and hopefully Tassie doesn't even happen. I want to see Tassie get up, but yeah, I don't want to see Chris Scott go over there, and I don't think he will, to be honest. So Yeah, Lucas, just like Jackie, I got quite excited over those scores. 5 for 97 now as things stand. Shadu asks, what do you think of Cozzy Pickett's 9-year deal or 7-year extension to his deal, and Harley Reid reportedly asking for $1.8 million a season? I think when it comes to, we'll deal with one at a time. When it comes to Cozzy Pickett, it is very, very clever by the Melbourne Football Club. The Melbourne Football Club have teed up a scenario here where they are mindful that he is probably quite likely before these 9 years are up to get homesick and want to go back, because he's been thinking about it the last few years anyway. They have now guaranteed themselves a situation where he cannot go for peanuts through free agency, that he's going to be commanding a lot of money. And so any trade or any sort of transaction is going to necessitate a huge price from the opposition, whether that's through players coming the other way, through draft picks, through a combination of both. Melbourne, and if he doesn't leave, they've got themselves a gun player for a long time. I don't love long-term deals, but from Melbourne, knowing what Cozzy's been like in the last few years about considering going home, I think this is a very savvy and very strategic one where they're going to get a best of both worlds. They're kind of not in a no-lose situation. They get the player, hopefully. So it's not a no-lose situation. The only scenario where they lose is if Cozzy Pickett does an ACL and his career is kind of derailed because of it. But, assuming his body remains in good shape, they've got a gun player for 9 years through to when he's about, 33, 34? How old is Cozzy Pickett now? Plus another 9 years. I think the length of the deal's nuts, but a bit like Jackie says, but I think there's some strategy behind it that I think is quite clever by Melbourne. They've guaranteed themselves a gun player for a long time or a huge payday, like bounty, in return for a trade if he goes to Freo or West Coast in the future. As for the other half of the question, which was around Harley Reid, I think the Harley Reid one is, I think there's a bit of strategy from Harley and his management. For as good as he's probably going to be, Harley Reid in no way, shape, or form deserves $1.8 million as things stand right now. And no player in the form, like regardless of what they've demonstrated in the past, if the player was performing at the level that Harley Reid is right now, no player would deserve $1.8 million in this current climate. And that, I wonder if that is part of the thinking that, around potential transactions to Victoria down the line. You set yourself a price that West Coast won't pay, and then you negotiate with the other club where it's going to be less. It's easier to keep West Coast at arm's distance, so you can then have that conversation with Geelong or whoever the other clubs happen to be. There's no way that Harley Reid will sign for $1.8 million at the Eagles or anyone else, not in this current climate anyway. 1,991 subscribers, 9 more to hit the magical milestone. But this show has probably only got about 5-10 minutes left in it. So if you want to push us to 2,000 tonight, I need 9 of you now to subscribe to the Hoops Crew on YouTube. 35,000 tickets go to competing clubs. So yeah, 35% of it goes to competing clubs, and then the remaining 65 distributed between MCC and the rest. Harley Reid is asking for 1.8. We'll play for the Cats for less than half. It's true. Stay tuned for my video tomorrow. Jackie says, 1 Division 1 winner in Powerball. What was the amount? What was the amount that Powerball was going for? That's fascinating. I mean, it's going to be a shit ton of money regardless, but what was the actual sum? I'd be interested to hear. Gary asks, does Geelong really need Harley Reid? Now, $100 million. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's an insane amount of money. All right. So does Geelong need Harley Reid? So my thing now, I guess, please check out my video tomorrow morning at 9:00 for where I explain the hows and whys behind the two players that I think. So I've got Zach Butters and Harley Reid, as is kind of being discussed on the media side. They're the two that I think Geelong will be at the top of the shopping list. And the reason there's a whole bunch of other reasons around recruiting this year through the draft and the like that are really important to it. And so please, watch the video tomorrow for that side of it for anyone who's interested. But the reason why I think it's going to be those two is that if I even think about them coming to the club and how our team would look with them included, Zach Butters is your pure midfielder. And so he goes in there and performs alongside Bailey Smith and Max Holmes, Tom Atkins, etc. And that's fine. I think that's a very clear and obvious midfield scenario. Harley Reid doesn't if you go and bring a Matty Rowell or a Sam Walsh or, even a Clayton Oliver into that mix as well, I think you've got too many that are all pure out and out midfielders without any doubt at all. And so I don't think it works. I think there's too many. And then suddenly you're sacrificing the game of a Bailey Smith or of a Max Holmes or of a Butters and a Rowell and whoever it happens to be. Sorry, Andreas. Rule 1 of the Paul James Show is that we don't talk about TB until the court verdict is resolved. So we leave that alone. Sorry, apologies, but that's not a conversation that I'm going to enter because there's all sorts of legal business at play that, I don't want to wade into. None of us here at the Hoops Crew really want to wade into. We'll talk when we can talk. 1,993 subscribers, 7 to go. Andreas, I don't think I've necessarily seen you in the chat before. I could be wrong. If you're not a subscriber on YouTube, please consider becoming a subscriber. We are currently pushing for 2,000, and we'd love to be able to hit that number tonight. 7 more subscribers is what we need to hit that milestone. You're right, we're not being, but I don't want to get into defamation things. It's just not. And also, I'm kind of innocent until proven guilty, and right now we're working through a process where there is either innocence or guilt to be determined at the end of this. So I'll just wait until we get to that point. Could you imagine? Yeah, it'd be crazy to imagine it. Look, I could see a scenario where it's Rowell and I guess so. Then why do I think it is so the Butters thing? But you could exchange Butters for Rowell or Walsh, or there's a range of players that would fit that bill. But why I specifically think the other player needs to be Harley Reid or should be Harley Reid is not just because he's a Geelong supporter, but Harley Reid is your Dustin Martin type, where he's got that forward craft. He's more adept at that end of the ground than I think all of the other mids that we've kind of discussed so far. And so he gives you a bit of flexibility through your midfield to be able to have, for example, so let's work on the assumption for a moment that it's Butters and Reid. It allows you to have Butters, Smith, Holmes, Atkins rolling through the midfield, and you can have this Rolls Royce that is Harley Reid just buzzing around the half forward line and deep forward, causing all sorts of havoc like Dusty would. And then when one of those blokes go over a break, then you let Harley on through the midfield. It means that you never have moments where your midfield is depleted or weakened. And so I think that works really well for Geelong in that respect. Gary also talked about Butters being an outside mid. In the case of Butters, I would never personally consider him an outside mid. He is a bull. Certainly he's great on the outside, but he absolutely thrives at the bottom of a contest. Seven more subscribers to go. Roaming us, who are your least favourite players for Geelong? 3 ideally. Least favourite? I don't think I'd want to name names. I'm also struggling to come up with names. Because I don't want to name names because we want to be able to work with the club and all those things. But I feel like I could kind of adjust the question a little bit to to be more along the lines of like which Geelong players maybe frustrate me most, and that could be around potential and those sort of things. And I guess if we want to go down that path, well, right now the player that's frustrating me the most is Ollie Henry, despite the fact that I love him and think he gives us so much. Right now he's driving me wild because he just can't deliver at the level that we need him to right now. But I wouldn't say I don't like him. He's just annoying the shit out of me. Who frustrates me the most? I feel like I'd struggle to come up with... Honestly, feel like I'd struggle to come up with 3. We'll put Ollie Henry in there right now. We've just pumped him up, but Rhys can be a bit frustrating still at times. Like I said, when he's off, he's right off. But frustrate is very different to dislike. I love Rhys, but he can frustrate me. Probably Sam De Koning is the third, I reckon. I'm just looking through the list at the moment. Sam De Koning's probably the third because he sours up. Oh, hang on. There we go. Shadoo's even just highlighted that. Yeah, when he has a bit of a sook, when Sam starts sooking, he gives me the shits like few other players. And he still sulks. When he gets beaten in the contest, he starts flinging his arms around his head. And like there's disappointment at the core of it. And I appreciate disappointment and frustration and the want to do better. But he carries on like a child sometimes when he loses a contest. And I don't love that. So for me, I guess the 3 players that perhaps frustrate me the most, Rhys Stanley, Sam De Koning, and Ollie Henry. But I love them all. Honestly, I'm scrolling through the list right now. And of course, there's plenty of players here who haven't played an AFL game for us yet. And so we've just got to reserve all judgment on them. But there's none that I dislike. But there's some that might frustrate me. Toby Conway's disc in his back frustrates the shit out of you. Yeah, it's fair too. He is a child in terms of the scale of his journey through the AFL. He is absolutely still in the earlier stages of his career. I do appreciate that. Roaming says Shannon Neal is the 4th. I can appreciate that too. All right. I think we are going to wrap things up for the show tonight. We are currently sitting on 1,993 subscribers, 7 to go to hit the magic 2,000. If you know anyone who is not subscribed to the channel, please get them to do so in the next few days. We'd love us to hit 2,000 during post-game live on Saturday night. That is the revised goal. We are well ahead of... we were looking to hit 2,000 before the end of the season. We're going to do that before the end of round 14, quite likely at this point. So thank you all. Many of you have been here since well before this season. But thank you to all of you who've been subscribed to the Hoops Crew for as long as you have, that have, in the case of Lucas, brought your mum on board, and so many others who've jumped on the bandwagon over the course of the last 12 months and joined the Hoops Crew, checked out our content, continue to check out our content. We really, really appreciate it. Come in live and chat as you have done. It's always a good time. Thank you all, and I look forward to continuing to chat to you well beyond us hitting the 2,000 subscriber milestone. Oh, Mum did subscribe. There we go. See, I nailed it. Your mum's a rock star, and so are you, Lucas. Thanks, mate. All right, you've just Cody Waitman. Cody Waitman is my least favorite player in the league. Little smart ass. Can't stand him. Anyway, he's got that. Oh damn it! What's his name from Freo that Matty Scarlett punched? Hayden Ballantyne. He's got that Hayden Ballantyne-like quality. Just needs a right hook to the face. Not that we condone that. Just saying he maybe needs one. Ben with the 1993. We are wrapping things up though, Ben, so we're not going to get to 2,000 tonight. I've now revised the goal. Post-game live on Saturday night is when we will try again to hit our 2,000 subscriber milestone. Please check the video out tomorrow about the Geelong War Chest. Who knows? Maybe 2,000 subscribers is reached with that video tomorrow morning. It goes live at 9 a.m. Again, there is your thumbnail. without Ben's text. All right. There's the thumbnail tomorrow. 9 a.m., the Geelong War Chest, me talking about several of these individuals. But yeah, check it out. We're not recruiting Dennis Pagan. All right. Thank you all for having joined the show tonight, tuned in, shared your thoughts, your comments, your love, your support. And for the many of you who've subscribed tonight as well, we really, really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed this, I've said it a million times tonight, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like this video, tell your friends and family, get more people dialed into All Things Hoops Crew. We really appreciate it. 1993 is where we sit. I'm going to continue to refresh it right up until the end, just in case that ticks over any further. Thank you all who are already subscribed and continue to check out our content. We really, really appreciate it. Many of you have done so already in the chat, but if you're watching this show after the fact, use the comment section, share your thoughts, your comments on anything that we've discussed tonight. It's been awesome to have you. It's too late now, but don't forget that we have a super chat function as well. If you've got some thoughts that you really want to see aired, something you want to celebrate, acknowledge, or if you just want to throw a bit of love our way, the super chat function is there for you to use. Thank you to those who have been using it lately. We really, really appreciate it. Ben's been getting a lot of love on Postgame Live lately via super chats. It's been awesome to see. And thank you all for that support that you're providing him and us by extension. You can find me on socials, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Instagram at Paul James Games. The Hoops Crew you'll find at the Hoops Crew. Thank you again to our sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist, for your continued support of All Things Hoops Crew. And if you enjoy what we do, we are on Patreon. I'll double check now, but we are sitting on 39 paid patrons right now. 50 is we had 2 goals this year, 2,000 YouTube subscribers, 50 ongoing patrons. We're at 39 on Patreon at the moment. 50 has also become the goal number for those who want me to be rocking those Ninja Turtles pajamas. That I don't have, but will absolutely buy and then wear. Once we hit 50, we're on 39 right now. There's lots of early access, extended, and exclusive content there for patrons. So consider checking out what we get up to. There's a 7-day free trial as well. And then it only costs $5 a month after that to get all of that stuff delivered to your email inbox. All right. Thank you all very, very much for checking out the show tonight. Thank you for bearing with me on Monday when I was nursing the flu, bearing with me tonight when I can still feel my voice being a little bit wobbly at different points. So no, Ben, you're definitely not getting a 3-hour show. We'll save that for post-game live. Thank you all for having tuned in. The turtle emojis are popping. One final check of the subscriber count has us sitting on 1,993. We look forward to hopefully hitting that big milestone in the next couple of nights. Thank you all, as always, for tuning in. Remain Geelong strong. Ben hasn't set the outro video, so let's get that back here. Set. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Remain Geelong strong, and I'll see you later.